The stars twinkled silently in the vast emptiness of space as the UNS Horizon drifted toward the meeting point. Commander Jack Lawson stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back, trying to hide his nervousness from the crew. After centuries of searching the skies and wondering if humans were alone in the universe, they finally had their answer. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Hegemony vessel," said Lieutenant Olivia Martinez, her fingers dancing across the glowing console. "Their ship is 3 times our size." Jack nodded. "Put it on screen." The main display flickered to life, revealing a being unlike anything humans had ever seen. The alien had 6 eyes arranged in a circle around what Jack assumed was its head. Its skin shimmered with an iridescent quality that reminded him of oil on water. "I am High Emissary Zorn of the Galactic Hegemony," the creature spoke, its words translated by the ship's eye. "We welcome the representatives of Earth to this historic meeting." The first meetings went smoothly. The Hegemony seemed curious about humans, asking countless questions about Earth's history, culture, and technology. They shared information about their coalition of species that spanned over 3,000 worlds across the galaxy. To the human delegation, it felt like a dream come true. Then everything changed. Jack was woken in the middle of the night cycle by an urgent call from Dr. Samantha Wells, the mission's chief scientist. "Commander, you need to come to the lab immediately," she said, her voice tight with worry. When Jack arrived, Samantha pointed to her monitor. "The Hegemony scientists requested biological samples yesterday. Blood, tissue, DNA mapping. Standard protocol for first contact. But look at their internal communications we just intercepted." On the screen, alien symbols scrolled past, being translated in real time. Jack felt a chill run down his spine as he read the words. "Human genetic structure shows anomalous adaptive capabilities. Rate of mutation and evolutionary potential exceeds safety parameters. Recommend immediate containment protocols." "What does this mean?" Jack asked, though he already feared the answer. "They're afraid of us," Samantha replied. "Not of our weapons or technology. They're far beyond us there. They're afraid of what we might become." The next morning, the Hegemony delegation's attitude had completely shifted. Gone was the friendly curiosity, replaced by cold formality. Their questions became more pointed, focusing on human military capabilities, colony plans, and reproductive rates. 3 days later, the Horizon received the official decree from the Hegemony Council. Humanity was to be quarantined to the Sol system indefinitely. Any attempt to expand beyond would be considered an act of war and met with immediate military action. "They can't just cage us in our own system," Captain Maya Rodriguez said during the emergency meeting in the ship's conference room. "We've already established research outposts as far as Europa and Titan. Our population can't survive on Earth alone much longer." Jack stared out the viewport at the massive Hegemony ships that now surrounded them. "They're calling us a genetic aberration, a threat to galactic stability because we adapt too quickly. They've done this before to other species they deem dangerous." Lieutenant Martinez looked up from her datapad. "Sir, we've analyzed their quarantine plans. They're establishing jump point blockades at every exit from our system. Once complete, we'll be totally isolated." Jack's jaw tightened as he made the hardest decision of his life. Send word to Earth. Tell them everything. And, he paused, tell them to prepare. The stars are our birthright, and we won't be denied them. As the Horizon began its journey home, Jack knew humanity faced its greatest challenge. They would not go quietly into the dark night of extinction. They would fight. 5 years passed like a shadow over Earth. The once peaceful planet had transformed into a massive military factory. In secret underground facilities stretching beneath oceans and mountains, humanity built its response to the Hegemony's quarantine. Admiral Susan Kelly walked through the massive hangar bay of Lunar Base Alpha, watching as workers swarmed over the gleaming hull of the UNS Defiance. The warship represented humanity's greatest achievement, a vessel built with technology pieced together from damaged Hegemony ships, recovered by daring covert missions beyond the blockade. Impressive, isn't she? Asked Commander Alan Wilson, falling into step beside Susan. His dark uniform bore the patches of a dozen secret operations. Susan nodded, her gray eyes reflecting the ship's metallic surface. How many did we lose getting the tech for those engines? 17 good men and women. Alan replied quietly. The stealth team on Europa Station paid the highest price. Susan's hand tightened on the railing. Every death weighed on her conscience, but each sacrifice had been necessary. The hegemony thought humans were just dangerous animals to be caged. They would soon learn their mistake. Status report on the fleet, she asked, turning away from the Defiance. Alan handed her a tablet. 300 vessels ready for deployment. Carriers, destroyers, frigates, all equipped with our new shield technology, and pulse weapons. He hesitated before adding, the hegemony fleet still outnumbers us 10-1. Susan smiled grimly. Numbers aren't everything. They've underestimated us from the beginning. That's our advantage. Later that day, Susan stood on the bridge of the completed Defiance, watching as her fleet assembled in the shadow of the moon, hidden from hegemony sensors. Each ship represented countless hours of labor, the combined effort of a unified Earth fighting for its future. The neural interfaces are online, Admiral, reported Lieutenant Carla Johnson from the tactical station. All ship captains are connected to the battle network. This was humanity's secret weapon. Technology that linked human minds directly to their ships, allowing reaction times that even the advanced hegemony couldn't match. Where the aliens relied on computers for combat decisions, humans had found a way to merge the intuition of the human brain with the speed of machines. Open a channel to all ships, Susan ordered, straightening her uniform jacket. When the communications officer nodded, she spoke clearly and firmly. Men and women of the Earth Defense Fleet, today we take our first step back to the stars. For 5 years, we have prepared while the hegemony thought us safely contained. They believe we lack the courage to challenge them. They believe we will accept slow extinction within the borders of our own system. She paused, looking at the determined faces of her bridge crew. They are wrong. Humanity was born to explore, to adapt, to overcome. We have faced extinction-level threats throughout our history and survived. We evolved from prey into the dominant species of our world. And now, we will take our place among the stars. By force, if necessary. Susan nodded to Alan, who activated the main view screen. It showed the hegemony blockade. 30 massive warships positioned at the main jump point out of the Sol system. Send the message, she commanded. The ultimatum was broadcast simultaneously on all frequencies, translated into the 12 main languages of the hegemony. To the Galactic Hegemony Council. For 5 years, you have denied humanity its rightful place among the stars. You have labeled us dangerous without provocation. You have blocked our trade routes and threatened our sovereignty. This ends today. The human race will not be contained. You have 24 hours to dismantle your blockade, or we will remove it ourselves. As the message ended, Susan looked out at her assembled fleet, knowing that the next day would determine the future of her species. Prepare for battle, she said quietly. Tomorrow, we take back the stars. The 24-hour deadline passed without a response from the hegemony. Instead, their actions spoke clearly. Reinforcements arrived to strengthen the blockade, doubling the alien presence at the jump point. Commander Greg Foster stood on the bridge of the UNS Defiance, watching the tactical display as Admiral Kelly's flagship led the first wave toward the nearest hegemony outpost. His heart pounded against his ribs, but his face remained calm for the sake of his crew. Hegemony vessels have detected us, reported Lieutenant Kate Rodriguez, her dark eyes fixed on her console. Their formation is changing. Looks like a standard hegemony defense pattern. They're positioning for a long-range engagement. Greg nodded. Intelligence had predicted this response. The hegemony preferred to fight from a distance, using their superior weapons range to destroy enemies before they could close in. It was a tactic that had served them well against less advanced species. All ships, Neural interfaces to combat mode, Greg ordered. Around him, crew members closed their eyes briefly as the ship's systems merged with their thoughts. The sensation still felt strange to Greg, like suddenly having extra limbs and enhanced senses. Through the neural network, he could feel the other ships, sense their position and status as if they were extensions of his own body. This was humanity's edge, a technology the hegemony couldn't imagine, born from humanity's unique brain structure. They're charging weapons, Kate announced. Energy signatures indicate heavy plasma cannons. The first volley from the alien ships lit up space. Brilliant streams of energy that rushed toward the human fleet. In past simulations, such an attack would have destroyed half the approaching forces. But not today. With reaction times enhanced by the neural interfaces, human pilots twisted their ships in seemingly impossible maneuvers. The hegemony weapons, programmed to predict standard evasion patterns, found only empty space. Execute Delta Formation, Greg commanded. Through the neural net, every ship captain instantly understood the complex three-dimensional pattern he envisioned. The fleet split into 3 attack groups, each moving in coordination that would have been impossible with conventional communications. Deploy countermeasures, he added. Hundreds of small drones launched from the human fleet, each broadcasting false signatures to confuse hegemony targeting systems. Meanwhile, the 3 attack groups accelerated toward different sections of the alien blockade. On the main view screen, Greg watched the hegemony commanders try to adapt. Their ships began to reposition, but too slowly. They were fighting according to battle doctrines developed over thousands of years, rigid, predictable, and utterly unprepared for human unpredictability. "We're in weapons range," Kate announced, a hint of excitement breaking through her professional demeanor. "All ships target their command and control systems first," Greg ordered. "Fire when ready." The human fleet unleashed its fury, not with the energy weapons the hegemony expected, but with kinetic projectiles accelerated to near-light speed. These simple weapons, enhanced with stolen hegemony technology, tore through alien shields designed to stop energy attacks. The first hegemony vessel erupted in a silent explosion. Its reactor core breached. 2 more followed quickly as the human attack groups pressed their advantage, getting inside the minimum effective range of the aliens' heavy weapons. "They're trying to regroup," Kate reported. "Their communications are in disarray. I think we've surprised them." Greg allowed himself a small smile. "Keep pressing. Don't give them time to adapt." The battle lasted just under an hour. When it ended, 17 hegemony ships drifted as lifeless hulks. The humans had lost only 3 vessels, their crews successfully evacuated before destruction. As the human fleet secured the jump point, Greg received a transmission from Admiral Kelly. "Well done, Commander," she said, her image slightly distorted by interference. "The path is open. Humanity takes its first step beyond the blockade today." Greg looked at the stars beyond the jump point, countless worlds that had been denied to humanity, now within reach. "What are your orders, Admiral?" "Send the colony ships through. It's time to show the galaxy that humans will not be caged." News of humanity's victory spread through the galactic hegemony like wildfire. On countless worlds across 3,000 star systems, beings of all shapes and sizes gathered around information terminals, watching footage of the battle with disbelief. The mighty hegemony fleet, undefeated for 12 centuries, had been outmaneuvered by a species most had never even heard of. On Centaurus Prime, the gleaming capital world of the hegemony, the Council of 9 Species convened in an emergency session. The ancient chamber, with its towering crystal columns and floating platforms, buzzed with nervous energy. Supreme Counselor Varix slammed his 4-fingered hand against the stone table, his scaled skin flushed deep purple with rage, making the other council members lean away in alarm. "These humans must be eradicated immediately," he roared, his translator struggling to keep up with his rapid speech. "They are exactly what our ancient laws warn against, a species that evolves too quickly, that adapts and changes faster than the natural order allows. The Dorvian representative, a being of living crystal, chimed in with a musical voice. The quarantine was clearly insufficient. Our scientists warned us 5 years ago the humans show unusual neural plasticity and genetic adaptability. Now they have weapons based on our own technology. Across the chamber, view screens displayed the battle footage on loop. The human ships moved in patterns that defied standard tactical analysis, as if each vessel shared a single mind. While the Council debated humanity's fate, Admiral Kelly authorized Operation Starburst, the rapid colonization of nearby habitable systems, before the hegemony could mount a proper response. The window of opportunity would be brief, but vital for humanity's survival. Captain Diane Howard stood on the bridge of the colony ship UNS Pioneer, leading a convoy of 20 vessels toward Proxima Centauri. Each ship carried 5,000 colonists and the equipment needed to establish humanity's first settlement beyond Sol. "Transit complete," reported her navigator as they emerged from the jump point. "All colony ships accounted for. We've arrived at Proxima Centauri." Diane couldn't help but smile at the blue-green world that filled their view screen. Proxima, a planet that humans had dreamed of visiting since its discovery centuries ago, now finally within reach. "Begin orbital scans and prepare landing craft," she ordered. "I want the first habitat modules on the surface within 12 hours. As the colony fleet began its carefully planned deployment, the massive prefabricated habitat structures were shuttled down to the planet's surface. Teams of engineers and scientists worked around the clock, racing to establish a permanent human presence on this new world. 3 days into the colonization effort, Diane received an urgent transmission. She stepped away from the habitat construction site, her boots leaving prints in the alien soil as she entered the mobile command center. Admiral Kelly's hologram appeared, her face grim. "Captain Howard, we've detected the hegemony main battle fleet on approach to Sol. This isn't just a reinforcement. They've mobilized their central armada. Over 2,000 ships." Diane felt her blood run cold. "Our defense fleet can't possibly." "We will hold them as long as possible," Kelly interrupted. "But you need to be prepared. If Earth falls, your colony becomes humanity's last hope." "What are your orders, Admiral?" "Continue the colonization, but prepare defensive measures." And Kelly hesitated, her holographic eyes meeting Diane's. "Begin preparations for Operation Seedfall." Diane swallowed hard. Operation Seedfall was the contingency plan they had all hoped would never be needed, the dispersal of human genetic material and cultural archives to hidden locations across multiple star systems. Insurance against extinction. "The hegemony has bypassed our outer defenses," Kelly continued. "They're not just coming to push us back this time, Diane. They're coming to end us, to make humanity extinct." As the transmission ended, Diane stepped back outside, looking up at the alien sky where new stars were being hung as humanity's first off-world homes. In the distance, colonists worked on habitat modules, unaware that the fate of their entire species now hung in the balance. "Continue construction," she ordered her second-in-command. "But I need our best engineers to begin work on planetary defenses immediately." The race for survival had begun. The battle for Earth began without warning. One moment, the skies above the blue planet were clear. The next, they filled with the terrible shapes of the hegemony armada. Over 2,000 alien warships emerged from faster-than-light travel, their weapons already charging. Major Paul Mitchell stood at the command center of Orbital Defense Station Aegis 7, watching as the enemy fleet appeared on his tactical displays. His mouth went dry. Despite all their preparations, seeing the sheer size of the hegemony force was terrifying. "Station shields at maximum," he ordered, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "Alert all defense platforms to prepare for coordinated fire." Earth's orbital defenses consisted of 12 stations like Aegis 7, positioned strategically to create an interlocking shield grid around the planet. It was humanity's last line of defense. If it failed, billions would die. The first wave of hegemony fire lit up space. Massive energy beams struck the shield grid, making the station shudder violently. "Shield capacity at 80%, reported Lieutenant Irene Foster, her fingers flying across her console. "Grid is holding, but they're concentrating fire on Sector 4. Hall gripped the edge of the tactical table. "Reroute power from secondary systems. Maintain the grid at all costs." Outside, the human fleet engaged the enemy, seemingly tiny against the massive hegemony warships. But what they lacked in size, they made up for in speed and coordination. Through neural interfaces, human pilots reacted with impossible precision, weaving between enemy formations to deliver precise strikes. Still, it wasn't enough. For every hegemony ship destroyed, 3 human vessels were lost. The brutal mathematics of battle favored the invaders. "Sir," Irene called out, her voice tight with urgency, "Admiral Kelly is requesting permission to deploy Project Prometheus." Paul felt a chill run down his spine. Project Prometheus was humanity's last resort, a weapon so dangerous that its use had been authorized only in the most desperate circumstances. Based on warped principles of hegemony technology, it could manipulate the fabric of space-time itself. "Confirm authorization code," he ordered. Irene nodded. "Confirmed, sir. Omega 7 Delta." "Tell the Admiral she has my support," Paul said grimly. "And may God help us all." Aboard the heavily damaged flagship UNS Defiance, Admiral Kelly gave the final command to activate Prometheus. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a strange distortion appeared at the center of the hegemony fleet, a twisting of light and space that spread outward like ripples in a pond. The alien ships caught in the effect found themselves cut off from their fleet, isolated in bubbles of warped space-time, where communications and coordinated movement became impossible. Nearly a third of the hegemony armada was suddenly fighting alone, without support. "All ships, execute Protocol Omega," Kelly ordered through the neural net. "Concentrate fire on isolated enemy vessels." The effect was immediate. Human ships swarmed the separated hegemony vessels, attacking from multiple angles with perfect coordination. Without their numerical advantage, the aliens began to fall. On Aegis 7, Paul watched the tide of battle slowly shift. The shield grid had dropped to 30% capacity, but the pressure was easing as more hegemony ships were destroyed. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the hegemony command vessel," Irene reported, surprise evident in her voice. The alien commander appeared on screen, a 6-eyed being whose normally iridescent skin had dulled with stress. "What manner of weapon have you deployed?" the alien demanded, its translator conveying both anger and fear. "This violates all galactic conventions of warfare." Paul exchanged a look with his officers before responding. "You came to exterminate our species. Did you expect us to follow your rules while you killed us?" For the first time, he saw uncertainty in the alien's posture. The hegemony had encountered many species over their long history, but none that fought like humans, with a desperate creativity born from millions of years evolving first as prey, then as predators. "Call off your attack," Paul continued, "or we will deploy Project Prometheus at the heart of your remaining fleet." The alien commander didn't respond immediately. Then, slowly, the hegemony vessels began to pull back, retreating to a safer distance. It wasn't surrender, not yet. But as Paul looked out at the stars, he knew that humanity had won its first real victory. They would survive another day, and the hegemony had learned a crucial lesson. Never corner a species that evolved by overcoming impossible odds. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, the war had entered a new phase. The smoking ruins of hegemony outposts littered the edges of human-controlled space. Humanity had not only survived, but was now taking the fight directly to their enemy. General Frank Santos stood on the bridge of the UNS Vengeance, studying the holographic display of Veraxis IV. The planet glowed blue-green beneath swirling white clouds, beautiful despite being home to one of the hegemony's largest military installations. "All ships report ready, General," said Captain Lisa Reed, her dark hair pulled back tightly from her face. The Marines are in their drop pods. Frank nodded, his weathered face showing little emotion. At 55, he was older than most field commanders, but his experience was invaluable. He had fought in Earth's wars before the aliens came, and understood something the hegemony did not. Humans have been perfecting the art of warfare against each other for thousands of years. Begin the approach, he ordered. Stealth systems at maximum. The task force of 50 human ships moved silently toward Varaxis IV, their advanced cloaking technology, reverse-engineered from captured hegemony vessels, hiding them from the planet's defense grid. This mission represented humanity's boldest move yet, a direct assault on a core hegemony world. In the ship's armory below, hundreds of Marines prepared for battle. Their powered armor suits hissed and clicked as final checks were completed. These exoskeletons multiplied human strength tenfold and contained advanced medical systems that could keep a soldier fighting even after serious injury. Sergeant Maria Lopez inspected her platoon one last time. "Remember your training," she told the nervous faces before her. "The hegemony thinks their technology makes them superior, but they'd grown soft from thousands of years of easy victories. We're going to show them what happens when they pick a fight with the wrong species." The first sign that something was wrong came when the Varaxis orbital platforms failed to detect the human fleet until it was already launching drop pods. By then, it was too late. The Marines descended through the atmosphere in burning streaks of light, landing directly in the heart of the hegemony shipyards. Frank watched from orbit as the battle unfolded. Human ships engaged the surprised hegemony defense fleet. All Marine squads secured their objectives on the surface. "Sir, we've breached their central command building," reported Colonel Sam Rivera through the tactical net, encountering heavy resistance but advancing steadily. The battle for Varaxis IV raged for 3 days. The hegemony defenders fought with increasing desperation as they lost ground both in space and on the planet's surface. They had never expected humans to strike so deep into their territory, let alone succeed. On the 3rd day, Frank led a team into the captured hegemony communication hub. The alien technology towered over them, its surfaces covered with strange symbols and pulsing with energy. "Can we access their network?" Frank asked the tech specialists accompanying him. Lieutenant Ben Harding nodded. "Yes, sir. Their encryption was complex, but we've broken through. We're downloading their central database now." As the information streamed to human computers, Frank's expression darkened. The hegemony's secrets were being revealed, and they were worse than anyone had imagined. "Sir," Ben called out, his voice tight with shock, "you need to see this." The screen displayed thousands of star systems, each marked with a species designation. Most were crossed out with a simple notation: contained or eliminated. "They've been doing this for 50,000 years, Ben explained, scrolling through the data. "Any species that evolves too quickly or develops unexpected abilities is either quarantined until they die out or actively exterminated. They call it maintaining evolutionary stability." Frank stared at the list of extinct civilizations, feeling a cold anger build inside him. How many species? Over 300 exterminated completely. Nearly 1,000 more contained to their home systems until they collapsed. Frank's hand tightened on his weapon. "Download everything. The whole galaxy needs to see this." As the human forces secured Varaxis IV completely, the truth became their most powerful weapon. Humanity wasn't just fighting for their own survival anymore. They were fighting to end a cycle of extinction that had claimed countless innocent species. The hegemony's great secret was out, and the galaxy would never be the same. The war lasted 2 more years. Battles raged across hundreds of star systems as humanity pushed deeper into hegemony space. The once mighty alien empire crumbled from within as subject species, inspired by human victories, rose up against their oppressors. Ambassador Nickel Winters stood at the large viewport of the newly constructed Galactic Assembly Station. The massive ring-shaped structure orbited a neutral star at the heart of what had once been hegemony territory. Below her, representatives from 37 different species gathered in the grand chamber, their diverse forms filling the room with colors, shapes, and sounds that no human had imagined possible just a few years ago. "Nervous?" asked Admiral Kelly, now sporting streaks of gray in her once dark hair. The years of war had aged her, but her eyes remained sharp and clear. Nicole smoothed her formal blue uniform. "A little. This is the moment that will define our place in the galaxy for generations to come." When Nicole stepped onto the speaker's platform, the chamber fell silent. Beings that breathed different atmospheres, that saw in different light spectrums, that thought in ways humans were only beginning to understand, all turned their attention to the human ambassador. For too long, this galaxy lived under the shadow of extinction. Nicole began, her voice carried by translators to every being present. The hegemony believed diversity was a threat. They taught that any species evolving too quickly or thinking too differently needed to be controlled or eliminated. She paused, looking around the room at species that had been enslaved for thousands of years. Humanity fought because we refused to be caged. But as we pushed outward, we discovered we weren't fighting just for ourselves. We were fighting for every species that had been silenced, for every civilization that had been stunted, for every world that had been denied its rightful place among the stars. From the Zentari delegation came a low humming sound, their way of showing agreement. The crystal-like Dorvians glowed brighter, their bodies reflecting light in patterns that expressed deep emotion. "Today we establish a new covenant among the stars," Nicole continued. "The Galactic Concordat will ensure that no species may dominate another. That evolution and adaptation are not crimes but the natural rights of all living beings. That diversity makes us stronger, not weaker." As Nicole spoke, images appeared above the assembly. Planets being freed, species meeting for the first time, new technologies emerging from the combination of different biological perspectives. The signing ceremony that followed lasted hours as each species added their mark to the Concordat in their own way. Some used ink or blood, others crystalline signatures or energy patterns. When it was done, the longest period of tyranny the galaxy had ever known officially ended. Later, Admiral Kelly and Nicole stood alone on the observation deck, watching ships of all designs moving peacefully around the station. "The Hegemony Council has surrendered the last of their holdout worlds," Kelly said quietly. "Their species will be confined to their homeworld until they can demonstrate they no longer pose a threat." Nicole nodded. "A fitting end. Not extinction. We're better than that. But containment until they learn." "Did you ever think we'd end up here?" Kelly asked, gesturing to the stars beyond. "When they first blocked us in, I just wanted to break free. I never imagined we'd end up remaking the entire galactic order." "That's the thing about humans," Nicole replied with a smile. "We adapt. We change. The very traits the hegemony feared in us are what saved everyone. On Earth, children too young to remember the beginning of the war were starting school. Their textbooks contained maps not just of their home planet, but of human colonies spreading across a dozen star systems. They learned about alien allies and the principles of the Concordat. They studied xenobiology and comparative astronomy. Most importantly, they grew up knowing they were part of something greater, a diverse galactic family where differences were celebrated rather than feared. The stars, once denied to humanity, now welcomed them as guardians of a new era of peace and discovery. The age of the hegemony was over. The age of freedom had begun.